The urinary system, we're going to go through the features from the Anatomy Physiology Revealed site. I put together a worksheet for you to identify specific features utilizing images from the Anatomy and Physiology Revealed site. I'd like you to first identify the images on your own. On the first page is histology. We're going to look at the ureter first, which is this image right here. The reason why I have that image is I want you to notice how much smooth muscle. You can see how the wide span of the wall in this ureter is filled with smooth muscle. The lumen, where the urine actually is the white portion in the middle. So it's not like an open pipe coming from the kidneys to the bladder. The bladder is actually this picture here. The bladder is here. You can see the lining, if we were to zoom in much closer, is the only place in the body that you can find transitional epithelial tissue. The remaining slides are specific to the kidney. First, the glomerulus is this slide right here. So this is the glomerulus. We can see the Bowman's capsule around the outside, and inside here, this is the vasculature for the glomerulus. So the two together form the renal corpuscle. So the glomerulus is only the vascular portion. Within this same slide, we can see the proximal convoluted tubule. An important feature of the proximal convoluted tubule is that it contains microvilli. The microvilli are actually in these tubules that you can see are somewhat clouded. So those are the proximal convoluted tubule. Where I'm just going to highlight in a different color and put the letter D, that is a distal convoluted tubule because you can see it does not have microvilli. In this slide over here, we can also see a glomerulus. That also tells us that slide is in the cortex because we only have glomeruli in the cortex. So all throughout this other area, we will have either distal convoluted tubules or proximal convoluted tubules. So we know that this particular slide here in the lower left is from the cortex of the kidney. The loop of Henle is in the medulla, specifically the medullary pyramids. We can see loops of Henle in this particular slide, as well as this other slide at the bottom. So these last two slides, this is a different slice of the loop of Henle, but both of these are actually loop of Henle's. You can see this here would be the thick limb and this would be the thin limb. And because it's in the medulla, you'll also have collecting ducts located in this area as well. Now we'll look at some of the cadaver images. The renal artery is going to be coming off of the aorta. So I'm going to type AO there. So this here would be a renal artery as well as this one. This other one has been cut. So the left renal artery has been cut. It's coming off of the aorta. The kidney, those guys should be pretty easy. So that's a kidney and that's a kidney. Just to identify this guy here, this is the spleen, and this here is the liver. And this down here is the bladder. I think that's on this list as well. The ureter is the portion, the tube, that's actually bringing urine down to the bladder. So this is the ureter coming from either kidney. The hilum is actually this portion of the kidney where the ureter is coming out, the artery goes in, and the vein comes out as well. In this close-up view of the kidney, we can have a better look at this hilum. So the hilum is this area where we have the artery, vein, and ureter either entering or exiting the kidney itself. In this particular kidney, the renal pelvis is where it is still funnel-shaped before it becomes the ureter proper, where I have that in the solid, where the renal pelvis is this upper portion that's still where it's wide like a funnel. The minor calyx and the major calyxes, start here. The minor calyx receives urine from each of the pyramids. So this here is the minor calyx area. And the major calyx is where several of these minor calyces are actually coming together. The renal medulla is actually this whole area that's sort of bound. This sort of defines the renal medullary area, where the pyramids are these, not always pyramid shaped in this particular picture. They tend to be a little more pyramid shaped in other kidneys. So each of these are pyramids. At the bottom of each pyramid is a papilla. The papilla is actually just the bottom part of the pyramid, and this one we really can see a papilla sticking out there. So the papilla is this bottom portion where the urine is coming out. The papilla is part of the pyramid, and it drips urine into the minor calyx. And then this region out here is the cortex, and it goes all the way around the outer portion of the kidney. And it's in the cortex that you can find the glomerulus, the proximal convoluted tubule, and the distal convoluted tubule, as well as the interlobar arteries, afferent arterial, and efferent arterial. In this cross-section of a male and female, we can identify the bladder. So here's the bladder in the male, and here's the bladder in the female. Coming from the bladder in the female is the membranous urethra. That is the part where it goes from the bladder to the outside world. For the male, the membranous urethra is this portion. In the male, there is the prostate gland, located here, just under the bladder, and through the prostate gland is the prostatic urethra. So urine must go from the bladder through the prostatic urethra, then the membranous urethra, and then finally out the penile urethra. Over on the female side, just to point out some other features, we have the vagina, which is this posterior portion, and this here is the uterus. And we will go through those in a little more detail when we do the reproductive system.